Order. We begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. If I could please have a roll call, please. That was too many pleases. I guess you can't really have too many pleases.
Never.
All right.
Commissioner Harper Pedersen doesn't appear to have arrived yet, so I will put that one on hold. Commissioner Gutierrez?
Present.
Commissioner Bergman?
Present.
Vice Chair Bradley?
Present.
Chair Silberman?
Here. So the next item on the agenda is general public comment. The purpose of this public comment period is to give the public an opportunity to speak on an item that is not on the agenda. The commission may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed as allowed by the Brown Act. However, the commission's general practice is to refer items to staff for attention or have a matter placed on a future commission agenda for a more comprehensive action or report. Is there anyone here today who would like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? Seeing none, the next item is approval of the minutes. I have two minor modifications, but does anybody else have any changes to the minutes?
I have no other changes.
No? How about you, Jesse?
No.
Okay, so to the motion on page 2, I think it's in the second to last line. That's the wrong kind of accept, and I think it should be accept that, not accept those. So with that change, is there a motion to those two changes? Was there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Yes.
Commissioner Bergman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Bradley?
Yes.
Chair Silberman?
Yes. All right. So the next item is the Residential Design Review Committee. I move that we continue this item to a date uncertain. Is there a second?
Second.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Yes.
Commissioner Bergman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Bradley?
Yes.
Chair Silverman?
Yes. The next item is 1257 Magnolia Avenue. This is a public hearing matter. I will read the procedure for a public hearing into the record. Staff will present a report on the history, physical features, et cetera, on the application, followed with the staff's recommendations. The applicant will make a presentation or may make a presentation. Thereafter, interested members of the community may speak on the proposal. When all interested parties have had an opportunity to be heard, the hearing will be closed and no further discussions from the floor can be held. The commission will then consider the evidence and make its recommendation. If you challenge a public hearing item in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described in this notice, the public notice, or in written correspondence delivered to the city at or prior to the public hearing. Speakers are asked to fill out a speaker's form. They're located in the back. Prior to addressing the commission, the speaker should come up to the microphone. Since the meeting is being recorded, both the filling out of the speaker card and coming up to the microphone will assist staff in preparing the minutes. So does staff have a presentation with respect to 1257 Magnolia Avenue, APN 050-71-020?
Yes, thank you.
Wow, you're already there.
There, I'm
All
ready.
right.
You're moving fast tonight.
I'm trying.
Thank you, good evening. I'm Laura Russell with the Planning Division. The microphone is in a different place than usual. Do I sound okay? Does it sound
You
normal?
sound fantastic.
Great, thank
Yeah.
you. The application before you is for design review. There are no other entitlements or exceptions associated with the project. The site is 1257 Magnolia, which is located between Walnut and Laurel Street. The lot is 9,381 square feet in area and is currently developed with a single-family house and a detached in-law unit. There are single-family homes across the street and multifamily buildings to the side and to the rear. General plan designation is multiple family medium density, and the zoning is RM59 multifamily medium density. You can see that the zoning across the street is yellow, which is the RS6 single-family zoning. Here is the ground floor plan, which is sheet A2.1, if you're following along in your plans. You can see that the front property line is curved, and the building is angled to respond to that curve. There's an entrance lobby at the front. The parking, bike parking, and resident storage areas are located on this level. The floors above, each of the floors above have 3 apartment units on each floor, so there's a total of 9 apartment units in the project. The project complies with all of the development standards of the municipal code. It's proposed to be 4 stories. It has an FAR of 1.97, where 2.0 is the maximum, and it has a lot coverage of 58%, where 75% is the maximum. It also complies with the setback requirements, private open space requirements, common open space requirements, et cetera, as required by the code. So just a moment about parking. Since the project is located within 1/4 mile of transit, the required parking is reduced by 20% per the municipal code. So the base requirement for 9 2-bedroom units and the guest parking requirement is 19 spaces. 19 spaces is reduced by 20%, so the required parking is 15 spaces for the development. The applicant is proposing 15 spaces total. 10 of those are standard spaces. All of this is at the ground level. 5 of the parking spaces are proposed within a mechanical parking system where 5 cars can park in a space that would normally accommodate 3 cars. And that's a picture of the city lift puzzle mechanical parking system there on the right that 5 cars can fit into. The applicant is not requesting any special exceptions or reductions in parking beyond the automatic parking reduction for proximity to transit. So the parking spaces and circulation areas all meet the code requirements. Here are the front and right side elevations, which are the 2 more visible elevations due to the curve of the street and the location of the adjacent apartment buildings. The primary exterior materials are composite wood siding, which is applied vertically, and stucco in a couple of different colors. The windows are bronze anodized, and they have a proposed 3-inch recess that exceeds the municipal code requirement just a bit for window recess. The front facade has kind of 3 distinct elements. The light stucco portion is closest to the street, and then set back a little bit from that is the wood elevation, and the kind of the height of that wood elevation emphasizes that front entry. And then the 4th floor element is set back, and those different kind of massing components help to break up the overall mass of the building. The right side elevation that's also shown here is also well broken up with materials and colors, windows and balconies. They've used an approach we have not commonly seen in the last few projects, and that the wall of each floor kind of comes up a little bit higher than we have often seen and becomes the balcony wall for the story above. So it creates kind of an interesting pattern in different proportions than we've seen. So on this elevation, there's no kind of balcony railing like we would often see.
How far is that set back from the second to the third, or from where the wood stops to the, to where the 4th story is?
I can look at the plans and find it for you, or the applicant can speak to that. It's approximately the depth of the balcony.
Okay.
These are the rear and left side elevations. Although these elevations will not be very visible from the public right-of-way, they incorporate the same level of design detail and materials as are on the other elevations. The left side includes outdoor corridors that provide access to the residential units. So this is the place where the residents would actually walk outside to get to their front doors, and there are railings along this side elevation. The applicant is proposing 1,460 square feet of landscaping, which slightly exceeds the code requirement. They're proposing 4 trees on site. And then in the public right-of-way in front of the project, they're proposing 1 tree and a new landscaping strip. This new planting strip will help transition the project to the neighborhood across the street and add a street tree where there has not been one previously. The proposed trees are shown with green circles on the plan. I know sometimes I realize it's hard for you to see where the trees are. So there's 2 in the rear yard. Got that comment before. It's hard with the presentation, I know. And then 2 in the front, 2 in the rear, 1 street tree. All of those would be 24-inch box size, and no protected trees are proposed to be removed with the project. Several types of grasses and shrubs are proposed for the front yard and along the left side and rear yards. That includes flowering varieties at the front entrance area. Decorative paving is used for the pedestrian walkways. And staff has included condition of approval number 58, which requires that the final driveway paving material be reviewed and approved by staff prior to building permit issuance, because the specifics are not called out in the plan yet. The applicant held a neighborhood meeting on December 20th. 4 residents were in attendance, and the notes from that meeting are included in your packet as attachment number 4. Staff received comments from one neighbor, and he is here this evening to speak to you and provide comments. He expressed concerns to staff related to on-street parking, particularly on Magnolia. And he noted that parking has become less available over the last year or year and a half than it previously was before that, and attributes that to kind of the increase in activity in downtown and around the Caltrain station. And he asked staff whether a residential permit parking program would be possible in this area. So planning staff, although we coordinate, doesn't work directly on residential parking permit programs. So we did check in with our assistant city manager who oversees some of this work, and she's also serving as the interim public works director at this time. So in conferring with her, she indicated that staff would not be able to start looking into this idea until late spring or early summer, but we would sort of receive it into the list of requests that residents had made. So we have not received any other comments on this project other than the ones we received from Mr. Margolis. So if the commission wishes to approve the project this evening, this is the motion you would make. The applicant is here and would like to make a presentation this evening. We also have some additional information on the mechanical parking system. If the planning commission would like to discuss that further, we would leave that to your discretion if you'd like to. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you have, and thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for staff at this time?
Nope. BMRs, does this trigger off BMR at all? Or in lieu, can they pay an in lieu fee? Is there an in lieu fee being paid? Or?
It's a rental project, so they do not have a physical on-site requirement. They will pay the fee.
Okay.
And Jesse noted that there wasn't anything in the conditions of approval requiring payment of the fee prior to occupancy or really at all. Is that not something that's usually in the conditions of approval?
Not usually, because it's an automatic requirement.
Okay. All right.
Is
It's
it
just
different?
interesting because there's a lot of other fees, like, for example, that's fine, whatever.
Air fee, yeah.
We can certainly add it, but
I mean,
it will otherwise be collected.
Is there a substantial difference between ownership and rental? Because I remember 520, we did have quite a bit of conditions when it related to BMR.
Yes, there are separate requirements for ownership versus rental projects. So rental projects always pay the fee, and there are conditions related to other fees that came from the Public Works Department. And so those are kind of pass-through conditions that we've included at the request of another department. So I think including the BMR condition could go either way. If you prefer that it be in there for consistency, we could certainly add that.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And I understand the applicant would like to make a presentation.
Commissioners, my name is Toby Levy. I'm the architect with Casey Fieser in my office for this project. Laura's done a really good job about the overall, so I will actually skip a lot of the stuff I was going to say. How do I move this forward?
I think if you scroll down,
There you go. Yeah, you could do that.
Let's go to the next one.
It's not too many.
Okay, and so this is the basic floor plans that have been included in your packet. Next. And next. As Laura mentioned, this is among on the block with a lot of other RM59 projects, some that predated it. But when looking at it, we realized that some of them are 2 and 3 stories, and we really spent a lot of time trying to break down the mass, especially since this corner and the curve is so highly visible. And hence the sort of lighter cream color and the real differentiation between the 2nd and 3rd floor, and then again to the 4th floor. We're also sinking the parking a bit, so that also helps reduce the scale. The other thing that we did was pick up a lot of the roofs are sort of like 1960s type building, so we picked up on the horizontals of the building. I did think you might be interested in the wood siding since we called it out cement plaster, so I brought a sample. And it's made out of fiber cement. It's better for fire and energy, and it actually keeps its finish a lot more. But we liked the wood look, and we thought that it would work with the things in the neighborhood. Next, which is our last slide. This is the other elevation where we actually also see, you can see the setbacks of the building and how we wanted to express the entry but sit it back. And so there's a differentiation of planes, again, to make the upper story and the elevator override go away. I'm available for any other questions. Thanks.
does anyone have any questions for the architect?
Just a comment, I'm really happy to see like the wood articulation, but it not being real wood, because that just wears so quickly. So I'm glad you chose that kind of siding, and I like the articulation overall of the building since it's such a, rectangular.
Box.
Yeah, so I think it's really done well.
Thank you so much.
Are there any trees on the rear of the property? I know there are no protected trees that are being removed, but are there any trees in the rear of the property that are being removed?
I think there's one on the back fence behind the pool house.
Just one?
Yeah, there's one small tree that was listed already as in poor condition. There's a big tree that looks kind of visible.
Yeah.
But it's actually on the back fence neighbor's property.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. I mean, I saw that tree and it looked massive, but I couldn't tell what property it was on.
It's across the property line.
Okay, I have 2 speaker slips. If you would like to speak and you haven't filled out a speaker slip, it would be nice of you to do so. They are on the back. My first speaker slip is Laura Tuchel. I think I messed that up.
Tuchel.
I knew I messed that up. I could do worse. And have, probably.
Okay, oh gosh, I think I just compromised the microphone. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Laura Tuchel. I'm a 30-plus year resident of San Carlos, and I'm here to speak in support of the proposed residential project at 1257 Magnolia. This applicant is local and clearly understands the values and the aesthetic expectations of this community, as you can see from the plans. And I'm especially enthusiastic about the high quality and much needed housing stock that this affords San Carlos. So I hope that you will enthusiastically approve this project. Thank you very much.
And the next speaker slip I have is from Brad Margolis. It's a much easier name to pronounce. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for making a few minutes for me to speak. I didn't really, haven't done this before, so.
Hey, you just relax. It's fine. There's no right way to do it.
There's 4 people watching you on TV right now, so
That makes it better. Cameras, where's the best angle? So I live at 1262 Magnolia Avenue, directly across the street from the property. There's 4 concerns that my wife and I share, and my 7-year-old son, though he doesn't totally understand, he shares them. I guess I would say we're disappointed when we learned about this. We didn't really realize, and bad on me when we bought the house, that the property across the street was zoned for multi-tenant. So the primary issue, as Laura mentioned, and she's done a fantastic job and been super responsive, which I appreciate, is the parking issue. And I raise that because of the 4 issues. That's the only one I think anything can be done about. So I brought a photo, which I also submitted, which just shows you the house in lights is my house. My car is parked behind me. For the last year, this has been the norm, which is I arrive home and there's no parking on the block in front of my home. This has been since, from what we can tell, the apartment complex around the corner completed and started getting tenants in it, which also had reduced parking as a result of its location relative to the public transportation that supposedly everyone uses. We find that people still own cars, and then they get into relationships, and so a 9-unit home which has any single people winds up having like 18 plus cars, and unless the units has 2 parking spots per, it doesn't really work out quite the way the textbooks say it does. So it's been disappointing to come home regularly and not be able to park in front of the house that I purchased. So I do appreciate, again, the responsiveness about getting the parking into the queue. My understanding is from talking to Laura and email she sent that it's probably not till spring or summer that anyone will look at this, and then it's up to a 2-year process to potentially get the parking program. So our hope was that the builder was super kind to explain that by Cherry Street there was a pilot program in place. So our hope was that could be extended, ideally with permitting for the residential single-family housing side of the street, which would, keep that so that the people who live there could actually park there. It sounds like that's, potentially a 2-year ordeal, and I'm happy to keep emailing and talking to whoever I need to talk to and filling out whatever forms are needed. I just would love if it could get accelerated just a little tiny bit. So that's the primary thing. The other concern, I mean, we have a general concern about just hoping that the unit will bring in high quality residents. That's ideal. We have a 7-year-old son, so you just never know. And we recognize that everyone has a right to live in a great place, and so honor that. The construction for a year and a half, if it goes on time, I think I remember that correctly, is going to be directly across the street. My wife works at home, so we're really not excited about the noise that's going to be, and are hoping that materials and whatnot can all be kept to a minimum. It was something I asked about. You guys, they said that it would. It's just, there's a reality there for us. And the last is just home value, and I don't really know what the implications of, more tenants across the street in an apartment complex will be at a point in time if we decide to leave. Right now, we're very happy and have no plans to go anywhere. But those are the concerns. Again, it looks like a lovely home and great plans and very thoughtful and very, it's beautiful. I just have some concerns, and if there's anything I can do, particularly about the parking, that seems to be the biggest thing that something could happen about. If there's something that could happen for the other things, great.
So one of the things we actually could theoretically do is potentially address concerns about construction and impacts on construction. There are some conditions in here already that are designed to address that, both conditions with respect to grading and dirt haul, as well as actually, probably there aren't anything with respect to construction hours because they're standard, but we could theoretically impose some conditions on that. If you want to think about, for the next 5 minutes, what, conditions you might request, we could consider those. As far as parking is concerned, obviously if staff is telling you they're going to look at it, they're going to look at it. I mean, you made a reference to a permit parking program for single-family homeowners. I mean, staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it normally works that way. I mean, I think it's, it's a permit program for folks who live in the area. Where we've done it has been in places where there's concern like that people are parking there in order to avoid paying for Caltrain parking, especially, for example, in the East San Carlos area. I want to note that because I want you to have realistic expectations about what a permit parking program would look like. Jesse and I could have a cathartic discussion with you about our feelings with respect to the decreased parking requirements for these properties. It's been a recurring discussion on the commission because we recognize, all of us recognize, that it is not realistic that there will only be 15 cars at this property. I mean, the first thing I thought when I read this was, okay, so these are 2 bedrooms, they're 2-bedroom apartments. Who rents a 2-bedroom apartment? More likely than not, a couple of professionals. And so how many of them are going to just, have 1 car? Now, what I think staff would tell me is that my preconceived notions about what people do and what they drive are either already outdated or will be outdated, and we need to change people's expectations so that they drive less and maybe even experience some pain, so people are disincentivized from having cars and use public transportation. That doesn't help you at all. But I mean, I wanted to acknowledge that the concerns that you're raising are real concerns, and they affect you every day.
Yeah, I don't know. I was in the city in San Francisco for years. What I was thinking about was there are multiple places where you have S parking on one side and P parking on the other. Mm-hmm. So it is still all, residential and tagged parking, but you can set it so that, the people who get the S permits are the single-family homeowners. The people who get the P permits are the apartment, which still, is at least sets up some limits and we've seen an increase even just with the apartment complex that's already across the street in terms of the number of people. I'm assuming they're pretty modern, hip people. They seem to have more cars than apartments. So, I can, if you give me 2 minutes, I can text my wife and find out what her take is. I know weekend construction, and I don't remember what.
So the normal hours, so normally construction is not allowed on Sundays. It is allowed on Saturdays. Staff, what is it? Is it 9 to 5 or 8 to 5?
I think it's 9.
I think this excluded Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays.
But I think that was just for grading and dirt hall, wasn't it? Or am I mistaken?
Well,
Is it? Which condition did you see?
I didn't see it in a condition, but their letter response to their outreach actually laid out that pretty much they would be willing to do that. So I think I'm going to have at least entertain it as an additional condition. This is their response to their outreach. This is what was presented to the neighbors.
Okay. All right. What we were saying was that it appears that the applicant already considered agreeing to not do construction on the weekends.
Oh, okay.
Is that right?
Yeah, we're building a building right now on Laurel Street, 977 Laurel. We worked 2 Saturdays, and that was for just because of 2 big floor days, and it just seemed to work out better because of the traffic issues. So we were able to get a permit and start at like 7:30 on Saturday on those big floor days, which were 2 of them, and it helped out a lot. We're very content with working 4 to 5 days a week. We don't need to work any more than that.
Of course, there's pluses and minuses to that, because when they don't work on the weekends, it means the construction takes longer. But it sounds like they're already willing to agree to not do it on the weekends. So, but yes, please,
The only time we worked on the weekends was the 2 big
we can basically just provide for a condition that you're going to agree to not to work on weekends with the exception of poor days. Does that work?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. But feel free to text your wife, and if you want to ask for something else, I can't promise you that you'll get it, but we'll consider it.
Yeah, the only other ask I would make to that is on poor days, if we could get a notice ahead of time so we know.
I think that's reasonable. We can also condition that, and I see that the applicant is willing to agree to that too. Yep. Are there any other members of the community who would like to comment on this item? Okay. So normally this would be the time that we would close the public hearing, but if you wanted to text your wife, we can take a minute or two pause. All right, I wish I could play, what is that? Is it Jeopardy music? Does anyone got that?
Can we get a quick presentation on the mechanical systems out?
Oh,
I did
sure.
have-
He wants to.
I did
The
have some
wannabe
questions on
engineer wants to see the mechanical system. There is bike parking, yeah, but I can't remember what.
Oh, here's your video.
Fancy. You don't need to say anything now. I'll just watch it.
No American cars.
That's a Camaro in the upper right, the yellow.
Is it?
Yeah, don't you think?
I don't know. I can't see.
Yeah, looks like it.
Is it going to come down? All right, then we don't know. I'm thinking
Let the record reflect.
it could be an old Lotus, possibly.
I think that's good. Thanks for answering questions with a visual. We have one other development that I can remember that Laurel and Howard approving this. That's assuming that's in place right now, right?
That's correct, although I don't believe theirs is actually a puzzle. I think it's stacked parking.
Okay. And has that been working out? I mean, because I know this is somewhat new, and so I'm just trying to.
You know, I haven't heard anything regarding that project, but it's probably, a good idea just to check in with the applicant to see how that's working. We can certainly do that, but we haven't received any concerns or complaints from the tenants or those living in that particular building.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And, you know, I encourage bad habits. Would you mind coming up to the microphone?
My name's Ron Grove, and I'm one of the owners on the project at 1257 Magnolia. But there is another one you guys approved, and that's right across from the street from the Salt Box. They have lifts.
Oh, they do have lifts, that's right.
Couple in there.
It's, yeah, we're,
At 1673, that's another stacked parking. I think this is the first puzzle.
first puzzle.
Is this the one that has the multicolored one and that we, the one
Yeah.
across from the Salt Box that I visited?
This is where the salad place is
Or
below.
the back looked like it wasn't done well, or is that something else?
No, it's not. You're thinking of the old sandwich spot, I think, aren't you?
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Oh,
There was
that's
one-
the
there
one that I
there
was,
one
I
that
said Laurel and
really,
Howard, that's
had
Laurel and
problems with,
Howard.
and I think you said that the planning division was already out there addressing issues, so it's
I
obviously
think
not
that was more
theirs.
aesthetics from the outside. It was an aesthetics issue, but.
Sir, did your wife respond? You're all good? Or in a manner of speaking? I refer it as goodish. Yeah, goodish. All right. So I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second? Can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Yes.
Commissioner Bergman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Bradley?
Yes.
And Chair Silverman?
Yes. Discussion amongst the commissioners? None from you, Shannon? Any from you, sir?
None that I've already.
Do you want
that
to
I
make the
already-
motion? But
Sure.
you have to add the condition regarding the construction.
Weekend construction.
Eliminating weekend construction with the exception of pour days with prior notice to, I don't know, residents within.
I'll probably have you finish the motion, so.
But I don't want to do, you can do it,
All
maybe
right, I'll
200
try.
feet or something, 300
Okay.
feet? 200 feet?
Oh, notice, you mean?
Yeah, what, or posted, or what do you think? What kind of notice?
What's custom?
In the past, I think we did this for the project at 77 Walnut, that's almost completed at this point, but what we did was we notified all of the tenants and owners within a particular distance. And so, you know, I don't remember exactly what the distance is, but for noticing for projects in general that come to Planning Commission, it's 300 feet.
300 feet?
I just think that might be too much for just, you know, a couple of poor days, right? I mean,
If I could, through the chair.
Absolutely.
Condition of approval number 56 requires already that they provide courtesy notice of construction progress to owners and occupants within 300 feet of the site
Okay,
to the
300 it
satisfaction of the
is.
building official is what we've kind of been doing. So Chris Valley kind of understands the major construction steps, and when there's going to be disruption to the neighborhood, then we've been sending out those kinds of notifications. So a
Okay.
concrete pour would often fall into that category.
okay.
So you may wish to amend this condition or keep it in mind in adding a condition.
Yeah, you could just refer to 56, consistent with condition 56.
Okay. I'll take a stab at it.
You're going to do just fine, Jesse.
I move that the Planning Commission grant approval for the design review to allow a 9-unit apartment building at 1257 Magnolia Avenue, APN 050-071-020, for the reasons incorporated in the staff report and with the conditions in the code compliance certificate. And with 62 conditions, right? The 62nd condition limiting construction on the weekends to pours. Is that about it?
Yeah.
With notification addressed in condition number 56.
That'll work. Is there a second?
I second it.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Yes.
Commissioner Bergman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Bradley?
Yes.
Chair Silverman?
Yes. Oh, the meeting's not over.
We're still live, Dave. We're still live.
All right. Well, I wouldn't say I got excited, but I won't use that metaphor.
You're never going to beat my record, so don't worry.
So are there any reports on recent city council actions?
None this evening.
Do any of my fellow planning commissioners have any comments or reports?
None for me.
No?
There was no correspondence on the days. Is there any other correspondence of which we should be aware?
None for this evening.
Does planning staff have any comments, reports, or updates on any current projects?
Just a brief update that I would like to provide the commission with. And as most of you know, and in the community know as well, is that we are currently working with the consultant team to address the development standards for single-family homes. We've been working with a 7-member advisory committee, and we made some progress with that committee last December. However, there are a few additional items that we need to solve for, and we're going to be looking at those items on Wednesday, February the 21st. So this is a meeting, the 6th meeting with the SHAC, with the Single Family House Advisory Committee, and we will be addressing those. Should we get through those items, and we think we will, we would then be moving on to the next step, which is to hold a community-wide workshop where we can provide information and the results of working with the 7-member advisory committee to the larger community. Again, this will impact all of those folks living in the RS single-family zone. And again, the advisory committee was charged with looking at overall scale and massing of new development. So we put forth some solutions, and we're hoping to wrap those up so that we can share those with the larger community. And that's about it. At your next meeting, which is on Tuesday, just a reminder, it's on Tuesday this month, February 20th, we will be bringing forward a sign program for the Transit Village commercial buildings. So whereas we have one already for the residential buildings, we still have one yet to do for the commercial buildings. So we'll be bringing that forward for your review. And that's it.
Thank you. If there's nothing for the good of the order, the meeting is adjourned.